Fuck them Cowboys! Yeah! Never lose sight of the magic of this football team. Yeah! Here we go!
I'm all in.
Cowboys fans, it's your host Slater here. If you bleed silver and blue and you want honest talk, no filters, you're in the right place. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, and enjoy the video.
This is who we're working on, Mr. Lamb. So he remained the focal point of the Cowboys' passing offense in 2025, delivering another high-volume, high-impact season on Dallas's primary receiving option. He finished top 10 among all wide receivers in receiving yards with 1,077, while ranking near the top of the league in targets at 114. And he had 75 receptions on those targets, underscoring both his reliability and his importance to the offensive structure. Lamb consistently worked all three levels of the field with an average of depth of target of 12.7 yards, combining route precision with strong run-after-catch ability to keep the offense on schedule. While his touchdown total was modest relative to his usage, probably impacted by, having George Pickens on the other side of the field, his receiving grade reflects a receiver who consistently created separation, moved the change, and forced defenses to tilt coverage in his direction. Even when bracketed or shaded, Lamb remained productive, operating effectively from the slot and outside, serving as the quarterback's primary read in critical situations. Overall, Lamb provides Dallas with a true number one presence, one who dictated the coverage, stabilized the passing game, and functioned as the engine of the Cowboys' aerial attack, even when the box score didn't fully capture his influence. And I think that last sentence that I put in there really explains it all, because we've seen how this offense plays when it's run directly and only through CeeDee.
Yeah.
They can prepare for him all they want, and he can still cut them up with Dak. And it's just so amazing how talented and truly 88 he is as a receiver, right? Mm-hmm. So another great year. He did what he had to do when he had to do it. A little bit of a rough start in there, Philadelphia, as we all remember. It was crazy to watch him miss the kind of catches that he normally catches all game long. And the game didn't go our way. But CeeDee Lamb is always going to be one of the best receivers in the league, one of the best Cowboys receivers of all time, and he's always going to be super clutch like that. I think the fact that George Pickens is on the other side of the field does impact how much he is utilized during the game, but it doesn't change his value and importance to the team, right? So even though the box score doesn't show that he had, 16 catches, the 7 or 8 catches that he gets are super impactful. And it's going to be fun to watch both of these guys again together next season. How do you see CeeDee Lamb this past year?
This past year, outside of that Philly game and then, the little injury stint that he had with that Jets or the toss play that they ran in Chicago game, played pretty phenomenal. He played like an 88. He played like the guy we known for the past years. The biggest thing about CeeDee Lamb this year versus last year, obviously Dak Prescott was healthy, right? At the end of the day, any quarterback can probably throw to CeeDee Lamb. But it takes a special quarterback like Dak Prescott to be able to hit him, in the tight windows on the, on stride when he's running deep down the field. And outside that, CeeDee Lamb can make a play on the ball. Right? We saw it in the Chiefs game, that little corner end zone pass. We've seen it against the Commanders game when he returned with Pickens. What Pickens adds to CeeDee's game is the attention, right? We saw in that 2024 season a lot of attention be focused on CeeDee Lamb because he had no help outside of that. So what does George Pickens bring? He brings that attention being brought off him just enough to get some more one-on-one matchups, get some more, maybe fade routes, being able to, get that one-on-one coverage really mainly is what I'm looking at. And that's what benefits him the most. When you get CeeDee Lamb one-on-one, you're going to have a lot of success. When you got 2 or 3 guys, shadowing him over the top of him, it's very limited. Not a lot of quarterbacks can fit the windows that you got to fit into to get CeeDee Lamb the ball. So
I think you're exactly right. Season. It loosens it up for everybody. You have to come very correct when you're facing Dallas's offense, because most likely you're either going to have a very effective blitzing scheme to minimize the time that Dak has to find George or CeeDee, or you're going to have excellent man corners who can hold those guys down for, half 10 seconds, ultimately, and minimize where they can run. And even if you were able to have that kind of success, we still have enough talent sitting 3 and 4 on our wide receiver bench, and we have talented tight ends, and you never know what they can cook up coming out of the backfield. So it's really hard. When you face Dallas's offense, it is absolutely critical that you have one or both of two things. You have excellent interior and defensive ends. Your interior linemen have to be excellent. Your defensive ends have to be very excellent. Or you've got to have really, really good safeties who know how to choose and identify where Dak is trying to get the ball to, right? Because they have to anticipate that and make sure they muddy that enough for Dak to stall him long enough to help support the defensive line trying to get around our offensive linemen. So I think the only times we've lost this season is just a couple of times offensive losses where we were not able to be productive. You know, you look at the Bears game, they have excellence on both of those levels. They have a really good secondary and they have a really good, D line, and that made an impact because they were able to slow our offense down doing those two things. So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at our offense, the weakest point is honestly the offensive line, and it's hard to even say that because you're like, well, you have, I'm gonna get into it today, right? I'm gonna talk about guards, but you got Booker and Smith, and you got BB, but Steele and Guyton is where the weak point is, and so anytime this offense has stalled in the passing game was really because of outside pressure, those edges, right? Interior pressure wise. Dak Prescott's pretty good with interior pressure. It's just usually, that exterior where he gets trapped in the pocket that he has to either step up, and usually there's a, interior pressure catches up there, or he has to find a way to get outside of it, and it just doesn't happen very often. Not at his age anymore, maybe when he was younger and as a rookie. But, I mean, when this offense is clicking, you need two wide receivers, and it doesn't, for us to have George Pickens is an exceptional level of a second wide receiver, but CeeDee Lamb even found success with, Brandon Cooks on the field, right? When I noticed that the Cowboys weren't having success is when I'm pretty sure it was 2022. Did we have Brandon Cooks in 2022 or is it just 2023? I want to say it was the year we still made playoffs, but CeeDee Lamb seemed like he was, not fully out there, right? Because you had Amari Cooper in 2021, then we got rid of him. So, and when you have two wide receivers out there, obviously CeeDee Lamb's always going to be the beneficiary.
Yeah, I think we skipped that year on Cooks because we said Gallup, and I think they were trying to give him his re-up after injury, or as this season he got injured, and that's why we ended up with Brandon Cooks. But, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's, you bring up something that triggered something in my head there. It's like, it's going to be very interesting because we always felt like as much of a talent Amari Cooper was, and he was well received in Dallas, it affected CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I remember these conversations.
And I wonder how it didn't look like it really made much of an impact this year, but I think it was a more complete offensive unit too. But it's going to be interesting going forward to see if this diminishes CeeDee's production or even his confidence on the field as we move forward with George Pickens on a more permanent basis. It doesn't mean he's not talented, not crazy talented. He's not 88. He's not CeeDee Lamb. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying
it's different when you have to. It's different when you have to target share. It's like, look at Cincinnati, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, at the end of the day, you have to give it to the receiver who's high, or the receiver that's going to get a better scheme look. And that's what defenses were having to face this year. They have to choose which receiver they're truly going to guard. And for most part, most people are going to say, no, CeeDee Lamb, we're going to cover you because, we'd rather see George Pickens,
He's more damaging.
Yes. CeeDee Lamb is more damaging than George Pickens. As crazy as that may be to say.
It is. But we'll get into that here in a second.
So.
Yeah, but when you're used to being the only bull in the yard, it can still mess with you even temporarily. But
yeah, I agree.
All right, do you want to alternate, or you want me to go ahead and clear